Yeah, no, I'm not as good as Luna with the introductions. This is a special in the country, what I like to call a Deep Woods Wallace episode of In the Library of Graphic Literature. On the road again, yay! Anyway, as it turns out, I'm at a friend's cabin about, say, 45 minutes outside of St. John's, Newfoundland, and it's, have a look behind me, it's beautiful, isn't it? At a place called Middle Gull Pond. And not only does my friend have a cabin here, though, this is the cool thing, is further on down the road is our old family cabin, actually, that we had when we were growing up. My oldest brother now owns it. But, so I grew up around this pond, right? So, and what happened, of course, growing up around this pond as a kid, was I, like any good comic book fan, would bring a huge stack of comics with me. Actually, just about this tall in terms of the books that I brought here with me today. I'd have a stack of comics, usually a lot of 100-pagers too, to get me through. Because I mean, I'd be out in the woods and all that during the daytime, but nighttime I wasn't much into card games and stuff like that, so I'd just be reading my comics all the time. And if it was a hot day, I'd just be lying back on the bunks reading comics, sharing them with my brother. 100-pagers, they were great. But also the other thing too was that when I'd be around in a lot of I'll put off the sunglasses. I know they're kind of freakish, but they're kind of cool too. Actually, it keeps the sun out of my eyes from this point. So anyway, there's some local communities around here too. So when we'd be out going to church or whatever, I'd always try to, and we'd stop at a corner store on the way back in. I'd of course raid the spinner rack, and so I'd find comics here and there through the years, and so this stack is actually a multi function thing. It's some of the comics that remind me from those times as a kid with my stack of comics, and some of them are just good comics to read out in the country, I thought. And then a couple are like, what am I going to bring with me to read when the boys are off talking or drinking or whatever. And so this is it. Now, the first one I have up, and it's one that I can remember from here, because I can remember when I bought the first issue of this comic on the racks around the bay here, and I bought it because it was just so bloody bizarre. It was Omak, this one here. Let me see if let me double check my camera, make sure that you're getting a good shot of it there. Okay. Omak. How about this? This looks about good. Anyway, so this was a comic I remember as a kid, and this is one of the comics that really kick-started my Kirby love as a kid. I mean, I'd seen him when I was a child during of the 60s and all that, but I hadn't quite gotten on the Kirby train. But this was one of the ones that did it, because it was just, it was imagination unleashed. It was a character just out left field. That cover, like I say, that cover just it just dragged me in. It was just like, and it's still disturbing to this day, the world that's coming, right? And I love this sequence too, the explosions, him destroying the factory on his way out. But I loved other things. I loved Brother Eye, the Buddy Blank. It was a beauty, and it was just such a tragedy that it didn't last any longer. But Omak, great country reading. Another one that that I had as a kid around here too, and a lot of times I have a very particular issue from these to pick out that I remember having up here, having either found somewhere nearby or, well, where is it? Hang on a sec. You think I'd mark these before I start shooting. Oh, this is it. This one, Doctor Strange, number 4, right here, by Frank Brunner. Steve Englehart was the writer, I do believe. Yep. And I was just becoming a Doctor Strange fan, and this was the issue. As a matter of fact, I have this on a T-shirt too. This was the comic that made me not only a Doctor Strange fan, but really did make me a big fan of Marvel Comics. I'd been a DC fan all my life up to that point, and really didn't know you know, I learned a lot about comics in those years. But this story, it was just absolutely cool. I don't know how many dozens of times I read this story. I love this here where he expands to meet death, and then he's given that ankh on his forehead to live forever. So a happy ending. But great art by Frank Brunner, who I actually had a chance to meet too when I lived in New York. Thank God. I'm actually on a balcony about 2 stories up here too, a little balcony off, so I'm hoping that some of these don't fall off as I'm showing them to you. Oh, here we go. And this, I picked up this for a very specific reason. Yes. And of course, remember I was talking about 100 pagers? This comic here spent more time up here than most people who live around it here today. This I reread and read and reread this so many times up here. And the Devilfish, great Dave Cockrum. I mean, this is one of my favorite David Cockrum stories besides the Avengers, the Death of the Swordsman, and the Giant Size X-Men #1. So, and there's a lot of good stuff actually in this particular volume too, by the way, volume 10. And there would be other comics in this stack that would have been in my little stack of comics that I brought with me up here to read in the splendid outdoorsness. Now, hang on a second. Gonna have a sip of Earl Grey tea. It's provided by Tim Hortons. Well, not provided. I bought it at Tim Hortons, and their Earl Grey actually ain't bad. Anyone from Canada knows what I'm talking about when I say Tim Hortons. It's like your Dunkin' Donuts down in the States, but probably better. Next comes along because I'm out here at this cabin with my bunch of friends from growing up, childhood friends. So it's a bit of a sausage fest here tonight. We're all sitting around having a few drinks and reminiscing and all that. It's a bit of a boys' ranch. So I picked this one just for that. This is a dedication to my buddy who owns the thing and my buddy John who gave me and my friend Chris a ride up here. And this book too, actually, this book that I'm holding, I bought this from Jim Simon. So this actual book came from the library of Joe Simon. So anyway, Boys Ranch sounds like a cool kind of thing to do. To have out in the woods. And this, like I say, that's why I like sort of being quiet for a second. Notice how quiet it is? I can hear the back of the house. Maybe that's the generator. But I can't hear anything. Nothing on the pond. Absolutely gorgeous out here. Beautiful clouds passing by. Anyway, back to the thing on hand. This one I brought because it was sort of a cool mixed one. And it reflects the nature of the stack of comics that I'd have with me when I'd come up here as a kid. And this is the DC's Wanted, the world's most dangerous villains. Da-da-da-da. This to me just represents the variety in terms of the stack of comics I'd have. I mean, it might have a few older comics in it, because I used to bring up some of my good comics up with me. I'd just bring a nice representation. So I'll buy a bunch of different ones, a lot of 100 pagers, and this would be kind of like having the 100 pagers. I actually did have the Wanted when it was a comic way back then, because they were kind of like fun little mini issues to have of different villain stuff like that. And it also introduced you to like a lot of the old time illustrators and people like this. I mean, in this one you have everyone from Jack Burnley, Carmine Infantino, Mort Meskin, Sheldon Moldoff, Lee Elias, Joe Kubert, Paul Ryman. I mean, geez, everyone and their dog is in this one. Anyway, so I brought this up too, just if I get bored here tonight, this type of book I'd pick up and have a read of. Anyway, my last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My last my last few here, actually, well, at least 2 of these. I thought about, okay, I'm going to be out in the beautiful wilderness here. What kind of wilderness or nature-based comics could I bring to read? And 2 came into mind right away, and this one because it was right next to my door as I was going out leaving the library today was The Black Orchid by Neil Gaiman and Dave McKean. Absolutely. I mean, I was a big fan of the original Black Orchid, who appears here before something terrible happens. Anyway, great story. The art is absolutely amazing. I think this may be Gaiman's first book ever. I don't know if it says here. Yeah, I do believe this is one of his first anyway. But the artwork, I can remember reading this at the time. It was stunning. It was just like, no. These are the type of comics that showed us back then where the future of comics lay. And I'm so glad it went down that path. And thanks to Neil Gaiman for getting all those women into comics. You did us a solid, man. Now, and this one I picked because it's sort of out in the country type of book, and also because I haven't finished reading it, is Harrow County from Dark Horse. Harrow County, oh, it's so cool. It's it's witches, it's it's horror. I love. Oh, and it has great double page spreads with the title sequence Harrow County written into it. Always really well done. But I mean, the Colin Bunn, I've always loved Colin Bunn's work, and this of course is yet another example of why I love him. It's a great book. The story, well, like I say, I'm only up so far in this one, but this is the last in the series. I read all three other ones, absolutely loved it, and Harrow County, it's out in the woods. So if you're going to read a book out in the woods, make it Harrow County. Okay, now last but not least is and I only thought about this at the last second, wasn't it? And it's quite true. A lot of times when I go up the country, I'll bring my own drawings and art with me and stuff like that, and do some drawing at the side, and I, be looking at my own art a lot and stuff like that, which you do as a young artist. So in that case, that being in mind, let's have a look at Stringer, a crime thriller, which will be out soon. This is from Patrick Kinlan, Paul Tucker, and myself on the lettering. So it's a great, as it says there, crime thriller. Follows, as it says here, it follows Tim, our friend Tim, as he makes his way across Europe with a bag full of cocaine while he's on the tennis circuit. Oh, and here's the page I inked myself. So like I say, I lettered and did the sound effects, but usually every series or whatever, or every graphic novel, I'll try it. Paul will get me to ink at least some pages, and especially in this case, because then it sets it off from the rest of the book. But it's a great book. I mean, and I know I've read it because I lettered it. I've read it several times, if anything, and it's just like Nobody Is in Control. Same thing when I read that book, when I lettered that form, I read it and I was like, wow, this is really good. I want to see how it ends. And all through the time when we were lettering this, we're doing chapter by chapter. And that's where I knew this was going to be a good book, because it was just like, geez, I wonder if Paul got the latest script. Oh, I got to see this. Got to check it out. And of course I would, and I did. And you'll have a chance too, because it'll be on sale soon. I know you can pre-order it at Amazon through Image. But yeah, good book, and check out some of our other stuff in the future. Oh, there's a truck going down the road there. But what a beautiful night out, hey folks? And it's kind of neat reading comics in such a quiet environment, because you're reading such bombastic events, such superhero feats of strength and daring do and all that, and yet it's as quiet as anything around you. I can still hear that truck going down the road there, right? Well, yeah, a lot of memories on this pond and up and down these roads as kids, and I thought this would be kind of a neat way to share with you. So, once again, all by myself here. Luna will be back, of course, with the next episode. Unfortunately, she had to work tonight, and this was kind of a last-minute visit type of thing. So here I am, out in the woods, and the boys are actually down there cooking up a delicious dinner. Oh, you like the glasses, by the way? I picked these up. Bought these at Posey Row on Duckworth Street in St. John's, Newfoundland. I put them on. I was looking at them and put them on, and Luna happened to be there with me, and I turned and looked at her, and she was just like, and if she says it's good, then I figure it got to be cool. Anyway, that being said, we'll see you next week. Check out next week's in the Library of Graphic Literature, the Comics Positive, and of course Thursday Comics with Dennis Osborne. Yay! And order your copy of Stringer right now, please. Mm-hmm. Thanks for having me over. Bye. Whew. Check that out, people. Actually, before I shut it off, I'm going to give you a little pan. Let's disconnect you from... It's absolutely gorgeous out here. Okay. Thanks for having us over, people.